Starting with clean skin and my hair sectioned out the way, I use gaff quack to flatten the sides of my hair. This is to get ready for the bold cap application, and on top of the gaff quack I can layer up some of the posade adhesive. I sprayed it with a bit of water as well to help saturate it. So if I was doing this professionally and correctly to last a longer time, I would actually take sections of the hair and do this, but in sections, so it would be really flat, really thin. So then taking the ponytail and twisting it, and I'll twist it flat against my head and use some bobby pins to keep it in place. So I'm trying to do it as flat as possible, so obviously the bold cap can be quite taut to my head. So just getting the bowl cap and position it, trying to see where it needs to fit, to see where I need to trim it. It's quite difficult, this was. It's a bit of a timely process. I'm using a white eyeliner here just to help guide me as to where I need to cut to. It's just a rough outline. So using posade and a spatula, I put it along my hairline, just around the edges and about a centimetre onto the skin. And I do that all the way around where the bowl cap will need to be adhered to. And obviously on the piece as well. So when it's dry and clear and see-through and tacky, it's ready to push it on. Obviously it's contact adhesive, so it works better on the piece and the skin. And I got really lucky here. I just positioned it and it was pretty much perfect straight away. Hardly any adjusting was needed. Just a little fiddle around the ears and on the other side. But otherwise, yeah, the fit was pretty perfect. So it just took a little time to adjust and position and start pressing into place. And that's when I noticed some more areas that might need trimming. So I just did that with nail scissors. And obviously if you did this with a client, just be really careful. Then I went round the edges with some more posade just to make sure the edges were down and secure. I think I did about 2 layers of that. Because I had to cut into the latex bowl cap, it did take away thin edges and it left quite thick ones, unfortunately. So I went round with some Pro Bondo in pinky shade, and I used a thin brush, and I used it in a technique to push it up to the latex edging. It's not going on the latex as much as possible. It's trying to fill that gap between the edge of the cap and my skin, kind of giving it that step up. Bit of a timely process this was. This look did take quite a while. It's quite difficult to do. My eyes started to feel funny because I was looking to the sides of my faces so much. In between each layers, obviously you use the hairdryer to dry as well. And to take up some of the time whilst it's also drying, I layered up some posade onto the cap using a stipple sponge. And this just helps not smooth the cap. So the cap was already too smooth. So it needed that bit of texture. So it's a bit more skin-like and porous, as obviously natural skin would have pores. I did about 3 layers of that. So when it was done and dry, I powdered it with talcum powder and a powder puff. And then I damped the powder puff and then took away a bit of the residue of the talc. Going in with the Skin Illustrator FX palette, and I used the prime red shade. I tried to dilute it as much as possible. But then yeah, this shade I use first to bring warmth into that yellow latex cap. Trying to start blend it in with my own skin tones now. Trying to use the sponge for its texture. I don't want just one flat colour, so I don't want to press too hard. I do want the texture of the sponge as well, and do it in thin layers, making sure it's dry in between. If I ever did too much colour at one time, I'll just go in with the IPA and dilute it. So using a vein shade now from Temp 2 silicone paints in my airbrush, I'm just imitating some shading and veining. Not into too many places, I don't want to go over the top, it's just adding layers and definition. Because obviously in my skin and under my skin I'd have veins and blues. So it's to bring some of those shades in. It's very subtle, you can barely see it. That's what I wanted. I was trying to go for a bit more realistic skin effect rather than anything too like aging or deadly. So I used the remaining blue from the airbrush and started to splash that on using a brush as well. Again, just add more layers and textures and colours, neutralising some of the red. This is quite hard to do on your own. So using a Life palette as well, I believe Skin Illustrator. I've gone in with the brown now because I've got quite a lot of brown freckling from holiday. So yeah, I used quite a lot of the brown. And then going in the Necromania palette, I'm going in with the flesh tones. So I believe one's called Bone, one's called Deadly, maybe one called Dead Flesh. Can't remember off the top of my head, but it is that the three colour tones are mixed between the three. And then I did go back into the other Life mini palette, and it's got a neutral tone, which is a bit more beigey. So I layered in between those as well. I found splashing was taking too long, so I just went in with another big coral sponge and tried to dab over lightly, trying to not make it too flat again, but more textured. And yeah, it worked a lot quicker. So I was quite happy with the colouring, the blending, because the end goal was to attach these tattoos anyway. So after cutting it into the shape I wanted, took the acetate off and then press in place and then press in with water, like a typical kid's tattoo. These were brought off of eBay, they're brilliant. Used them at my wedding, I put them out for guests to use and people was having full sleeves with them and it looked really good. So obviously wet it as much as you can, and as soon as it starts to lift off, it's basically telling you it's ready. And there you go, you can start to see it slide off. I started to use a few more just to fill any gaps. Wanted kind of like a full face tattoo. And then some more, because why not? And then another little gap filler. It was pretty cool to see what I'd look like with my head shaved all the way around and tattoos on my face. So there I toyed with an idea of putting an eye wound on, and I kind of wished I did go with it now, but ended up not going with it. But yes, I did more tattoos on the other side, showing you how I got around the ear. And then same process again. It's very easy. These aren't professional use ones. These are just bog standard, I think, kid family fun ones. I wouldn't know how, I mean, they lasted quite well on me. I love this one on this side. Looks pretty cool. So I used a mattifying cream as well over it to try and take down any shine. And then used a black cream just to fill in some of the gaps near the hairline, just to take away the edge of the bowl cap. And then using the black cream and some brown cream, I end up roughly doing my eyes. As you can see, I'm just rubbing it with my finger, and I literally get, I think, in between two brushes and just really smudge it out, but really messy. I wasn't trying to be neat. This was kind of a warrior, messy look I was going for. So then I use some fake dreads and I quickly tie them into my hair, just in big sections. Don't even use bobbles. And then I tie it back in one bobble to kind of get that Viking shield made in hair. And using mist air paint in red with a bit of brown, because otherwise their red that I had was too bright. And just, as you can see, just placing it over my eyes, kind of warrior lines, warrior-like. And then I used the excess in the airbrush just to drip down my face. Don't know why, just for a bit of fun, bit of texture, bit of creativity there. And then I use another brush as well and just splash it on me. Kind of as if I'd been in battle and it could be blood-like. I'd noticed I had some gaps around near my neck, so I just used that awesome stencil and some black mist air paint as well, just to hide any gaps. And then I used that black around the edges and anywhere that I felt needed a little bit of blending. And then onto the eye makeup. Add more depths. And then I used a spray again and started to spray it as well. And that's it. I added some mouth blood as well, just had a bit of fun with effects. As if, yeah, if I'd been in a fight, maybe I got whacked in the mouth and it's made me bloody. Or maybe I was drinking the blood of thy enemies. But yeah, around the back of the neck, the bowl cap wasn't done and applied properly because it was quite hard and difficult to reach that area. And there was no point for the fact that it was just for fun. I wasn't going to glue my hair down any more than necessary. It was already uncomfortable. I feel sorry for anyone who has to wear a bowl cap for long periods of times. Hope you like it.